Hi, it's Paul from Model Building International. Today we're going to have a look at a new kit from a new company, and it's one that we stock on our shop. That's shop.hobbylinkinternational.com. So this is from a new company from the Ukraine called ClearProp. This is their first 1/72 kit, their first kit ever. This is the Gloster Pioneer. The Gloster E28 39, also called the Gloster Whittle, the Gloster Pioneer or the Gloster G40, was the first British jet engine aircraft when it first flew in 1941. It's the fourth jet to fly after the German Heinkel 178 and 280 and the Italian Caprini N1. The aircraft was a product of a specification specifically to test Gloster Whittle's new turbojet. They designed a very conventional aircraft fitted with Powerjet's W1 turbojet, and it flew for the first time on the 15th of May 1941. Two aircraft were produced for the flight test program, as I said, specifically for testing the engine and refining the engine, not to produce an aircraft in its own right. One prototype was lost, but the program was obviously a success. They ended up with a good engine. That engine went on to be used in the Gloster Meteor. The prototypes, it was the first prototype that survived. It was flying until 1944, after it was withdrawn from service. In 1946 it was transferred to the Science Museum in London, and it's been on static display there ever since. Right, let's see what we get in a box. This is the Gloster E28 39 Pioneer. Pioneer was one of the names, they used some other names as well. This is by ClearProp, who are from the Ukraine. This is kit number 72001. This is their very first kit, actually. So, and this is the expert level one. Decal options or painting options: 2 camouflage, 1 I think natural metal from 1941 and 1943. Those are. We got on the end here. Handy parts and size count. So your final model will end up almost 11 centimeters front to back and 12 centimeters left to right. So for those of you working on Imperial, that's about 4 inches by 5 inches. 91 plastic parts, 18 resin parts, 39 photo etch parts, and a brass pitot tube. Hence, that's why this one is an expert level. Basically, ClearProp are going to release models with different, should we say, levels of expertise needed. So you could find kits that are like a beginner level, just the basic plastic, all the way up to expert level with resin and photo etch thrown into the deal. So, and there's nothing on the bottom of the box. So you take the lid off, and you've still got a box. And it's the top opening box, pretty solid cardboard. It's corrugated cardboard, so the packaging is good. Stuff will survive quite a bit of knocking around. Inside we have one bag, one set of instructions. So I'll just get rid of some of this. So instructions, we'll go through these better when we go through the steps, but glossy paper, colour, as you can see, colours called out in Humble. They look quite nice actually. Little overview of the aircraft, dimensions, total number of parts, 149 parts in total. Let me go through them, still all in glossy paper. Yeah, the instructions look quite nice, colour throughout. Photo etch is sort of built into the instructions, so that's handy. Painting guide, all 3 are there. In fact, there's 2 there for 1941, 1944, and there's one here from 1941 and 1943. So there's actually 4 painting options or slash decal options there. And So you get to build an engine. Fuselage halves go together with the engine trapped underneath. This bit that covers the engine up, you don't have to put that in place. Undercarriage. I believe the last bit is you have an option. You can either have the engine on a stand outside the aircraft, or you can put the engine in the aircraft and leave the cover off. So that's pretty cool. So let's have a look at inside the bag. Let's take everything out if I can. So inside here, 2 canopies are inside their own bag, as you can see. You need to have 2 canopies so you can make a mess of one of them. And there is a little difference between those 2 canopies actually. I'll look into that. So it looks like one canopy is for some painting options and the other canopy is for other ones. Resin parts. Now let's have a look at these. This is the main fuselage. There's, to give you an idea of the size, some recessed panel lines there, really quite fine, as you'd expect in this scale. Detail looks like behind the fuselage kind of detail. Ribbing detail inside the fuselage. Inside, this is the top panel that covers the engine. There's detail inside there as well. That's pretty neat. The sprue, nice small attachment points. So that's pretty neat. Tailplanes. Air intake by the looks of it. Again, nice, so small parts and smaller fine attachment points. That's pretty neat. The wing and recessed panel lines looks quite nice. Some detail on the inside of the undercarriage bays. The ailerons are separate, so that's all pretty cool. Here we have, there's the decal sheet and the photo etch. Get the photo etch out of here. More decals. So you've got the photo etch, looks like a instrument panel there. Thick cardboard inside, all separately bagged. Looks like they paid attention to the whole packaging thing. And then let's have a look, see what we get here. There's all the resin parts. Okay, there's a big chunk of the engine in resin. That's pretty neat. That's a big chunk of the engine. That's pretty good. Compressors. And lots of nice small parts there. So what I'll do next is I'll take photographs of all this lot and put it together, go through the instructions and show you the key parts. But so far pretty impressive. Packaging's all nice, nice level of detail, nice bit of amount of photo etch for an aircraft this size. So, as far as I can tell, there have been a few kits of this subject in 1/72nd, but they're nearly all reboxings of a very old kit by Frog dating from the 50s. The only exception I can see is a limited run kit by High Plains Models from the 90s. Okay, so the first thing I say is ClearProp has 3 levels of kits, Expert, Advanced and Starter. The Expert kits contain everything you might need to make a really detailed model. You get the plastic, resin, photo etch, brass masks, decal sheets, basically everything you can think of. The Advanced and Starter options have less pieces and obviously have a lower cost. The kit itself comes in a sturdy box made of corrugated cardboard that covers all the sides of the box. Basically it is a completely sealed box. And then on top of that they put a traditional thin cardboard box top. So everything is really well protected. Inside the box itself we have 91 plastic parts, 18 resin parts, 39 PE parts, brass pitot tube, painting mask sheet, 2 decal sheets and a full colour 10-page glossy paper instruction sheet. Okay, now into the build. Step 1, we start straight off with an option for the instrument panel. You can either use a plastic part with raised details and a decal sheet, or you can use a plastic part with no details on it, add a film on top of that, and then put a photo etch instrument panel on top of that. Going the photo etch option allows you to add some photo etch handles and more details onto it. Step 2, putting together the pilot seat. Some PE lap straps go in there as well. Step 3, basically cockpit floor, cockpit rear wall, putting those together. Step 4 is essentially putting the inside of the cockpit together. You assemble the 3 assemblies you've made already, put those together, add some more parts, photo etch seat belts and some other small photo etch parts. Then moving to the right, step 5, you add photo etch parts that are going to be inside the 2 parts of the air intake for the engine. And then down to step 6 and 7, where we start playing with the resin engine. We're going to be building a complete resin engine with this. So put together the first 3 parts in step 6, and then on step 7 we assemble, add 10 other small parts, the main part of the engine that was wrapped in bubble wrap in the bag, and we'll start building what looks to be a really nice engine. Step 8, we're going to continue adding more parts to the engine, ready for putting it inside the aircraft. What it doesn't say here is you don't have to fit the engine inside the aircraft. Later on you build a stand, you can put the engine on the stand and have it outside the aircraft. If you do fit the engine in the aircraft, you can leave the engine cover panel. It's quite a big cover actually. You can leave that off so you can see most of the engine. If you're going to leave the engine out of the aircraft, this step 8 you won't want to do anything that's here, and the following 2 steps, the same goes for that as well. Moving down to step 9, we're just adding a couple of photo etch parts to the engine firewall, and then step 10, we're adding the completed engine that we're going to fit inside the aircraft. We add that to the firewall, and then step 11 is back to the, basically this is the engine cover, and we're sticking a couple of parts onto the top of that. Step 12 is a big one, where joining the 2 fuselage halves, trapping the engine, air intakes, cockpit together. You get a choice of 2 exhaust nozzles, depending which paint scheme you're going for, depends which one you need to fit. One thing to notice, there's no lining pins on these fuselage halves, so you'll have to be careful in getting the things together. Hopefully trapping the internal parts will help with alignment, but it's just something to watch out for. And there's some nice detail inside the fuselage. And one other thing here is it does also mention 10 grams of nose weight to go into the nose of the fuselage. Step 13 is adding some plastic and photo etch parts inside both of the main undercarriage bays. Then move down to step 14, we join the top and bottom halves of the wings and trap the ailerons in between. Note again there's no alignment pins on this, but the end of the upper part of the wing should help with alignment. You also, it says to add the brass pitot tube at this point, but obviously I think most people will wait till later. Step 15, adding the rudder and the elevators. Depending on your paint scheme, depends whether you get those little mini rudder things on the elevators. Step 16, basically put the fuselage onto the wings, and you get 2 canopies. Depending on your paint scheme, depends which one of the 2 canopies you're going to fit. Down to step 17, and we're looking at the undercarriage doors. This is the main undercarriage doors, and building the main undercarriage legs from plastic and photo etch. In this set you get 2 resin wheels that replaces the 2-part plastic wheels that are on the sprues. That's one of the advantages of the expert set, is you get these resin wheels, which obviously wouldn't be in either the advanced or the basic options. Step 18, exactly the same for the nose wheel. building the nose wheel leg from the resin wheel, photo etch and plastic. Step 19 is about mounting the engine outside the aircraft, as I mentioned earlier. You build a stand, you put the engine on the stand. Notice that there's quite a few pieces from, I think it was step 8, that are not attached to the engine, so that's when you need to make this decision. And there's a diagram that shows you that you can, if you do fit the engine in the aircraft, you can have it with the engine cover off. And there's a couple of part diagrams here, so you get the angles of the main landing gear correct. So the painting guide is glossy paper, full colour. All the colours are called out in Humbrol, named, and you also get a colour swatch as well. You get 4 options for building. 3 are for the first prototype, and 1's for the second prototype. 3 of them are with yellow undersides and camouflage top. 1 of them is in aluminium with red rudder and ailerons. And there's plenty of information there to get it right. Decals, you get 2 decal sheets, 1 small one, 1 larger, with enough there to obviously do the complete aircraft. You also get the decal for the instrument panel is on there as well. Okay, an overall conclusion. It's a very nicely detailed aircraft. There's a couple of 1/48 scale kits out there, and I believe this kit has more details than they do. It's easily the best 1/72 kit of this aircraft out there, and probably will be for some time. It's highly recommended. It's worth a look at. Don't forget that we sell this kit on our shop, and any profits we make from that goes to keeping the websites online and doing all the prizes and giveaways that we do.